Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto x Momo x Kyoka Jiro x Mina? Part 1. Huge shout out to Power of Magic for this story. If you want more awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. So without wasting any time, let's get into the video. With Naruto. We open with a Japanese blonde teen of about 15, who was inside an apartment building, along with an American girl with red hair that looked to be around his age. Naruto and Will had arrived in this world about a month ago, and they had been able to figure out how this world worked pretty easily, thanks to the library and the internet. Currently, Naruto was busy cooking breakfast at the stove, while Will was sitting at the table, watching some TV, which was showing a news report about a villain attack that had happened in the city today, and the new hero that had saved the day. Geez, it's like you blink and there is another villain causing some incident, Will said, as she rested her chin on her hand, as she watched the news report. Well, that's what happens when most of the population has a power, Naruto said with a sigh, as he walked over to the table and placed a plate of eggs and bacon on the table, along with some toast. Finally! I love bacon! Will was saying happily as she grabbed some bacon, before an orange blur flew past her hand and snatched her bacon from her hand. The blur landed on the other side of the table and looked at Naruto and Will, revealing itself as a dark orange furred kitsune with one tail. This was Kurama. That bacon was mine, fur ball! Will yelled, as she slammed her fist on the table, as her hair sparked lightly, as the kitsune ate the bacon. Well, it's mine now, Kurama said with a snicker after burping loudly. Enough, both of you. There is plenty of bacon to go around, Naruto said, as he gave Will some more bacon. Will grumbled at this, as they both filled up their plates and started to eat. So, what's the plan for today? Will asked Naruto curiously. Well, I was thinking of going out to look for a job, Naruto said, as he held up a newspaper that was open to the job section. Kinda hard to do, when you're technically a kid with no skills, Kurama said with a shake of his head. I could ask a computer to fake us a diploma, Will asked as she held up her hand, and made a small spark appear. And risk getting busted by heroes? Naruto asked, as he shook his head at this. Ugh. Not that I'm one to usually suggest this. But maybe you should just cut the BS and go to one of those hero schools, Kurama said with a scowl, as he knew Naruto and Will would rather help people. And how would we explain that we're teens and their pet, who just randomly showed up a month ago? Will asked, as she raised an eyebrow at Kurama. Watch it red, Kurama growled in annoyance, as smoke started coming out of his mouth. Enough. For now, let's just find some work in town today and then we can discuss possibly getting into school, Naruto said, as he looked at his girlfriend and Kurama. Will and Kurama both nodded at this, as they continued to eat their breakfast. Later. After they had finished their meal, Naruto and Will were now dressed for the day and walking in the city. Naruto was wearing an orange hoodie and blue jeans, while Will was wearing a green shirt along with blue jeans and a blue jacket, as Kurama was sitting on Naruto's head fast asleep. Currently, Naruto and Will were leaving a restaurant with a look of dejection, as they had just been told to go home by the staff, when asked about the help wanted sign that was hung up in the window. Damn heroes, telling us to go to school, Will grumbled under her breath, as they walked down the street. Well, they aren't wrong, Naruto said as he sighed, while rubbing his head. Will raised an eyebrow at this, before she chuckled. You want to go to a hero school, don't you? She asked, as she smiled a little at her boyfriend. Well, we are qualified, Naruto said with a chuckle of his own. Before Will could respond to this, Kurama, who had been listening to this, suddenly perked up, as he heard something and looked to the side. What's up? Naruto asked, as he looked up at Kurama. Trouble, Kurama said, as his fur went on end. Suddenly, they heard a crashing sound and people screaming in terror, before a crowd of people started to run past them. Gahahahaha. A large blond man with large muscles covering his upper body and green pants laughed maniacally as he smashed through a wall before he dragged what looked like two people. They were both wearing scuba masks over their faces and wearing scuba-looking gear. Shit. I heard about that guy. He's a big-time villain on the run. I think they call him Muscular, Will said with a scowl, as people ran past them. The name's a little on the nose, don't you think? Kurama asked. He has heroes in his hands, who are still alive, Naruto said with a firm tone, as his eyes switched to looking like toads with orange pigmentation around his eyes. Ugh, fine, Kurama said with a sigh, as he jumped off Naruto's head and ran towards Muscular. Finally, some action, Will said with a grin, as she cracked her neck. Wait for Kurama to distract him, then grab the heroes and get them out of here, Naruto said, as he knew Will was the fastest of them. Got it. There's a hospital not far from here, Will said, as she nodded at this. You two were pathetic. But at least you will make a good workout, Muscular said, as he held up the two heroes in his hands, ready to crush them with his bare hands. Hey, asshole! Kurama yelled out, getting his attention. Eh? What the hell? Muscular asked as he looked at Kurama. Yeah, I know. Only humans have quirks. But surprise, I'm special, Kurama said, as he scratched his ear. And who the funk are you, little dog? Muscular asked with a scoff, not impressed with what he was seeing. Kurama, I'm about to end your funking life, Kurama said calmly before he shouted loudly, as he suddenly grew to the size of a bear, his tails splitting into 9 and going crazy behind him. Muscular blinked at this, before he smirked seeing this, as he dropped the two heroes on the ground. I'll be with you in a minute, Fido! He yelled, as he raised his fist to smash the two heroes under his massive muscle mass. Before the muscle mass could crush the two heroes, however, the two heroes were gone in a flash of light, causing the muscle mass to smash into the ground. What? Hey, where did they go? Muscular yelled, as he looked around for the two heroes. Before he was grabbed by Kurama's tails and lifted into the air. What the hell? Put me down, you funking mutt! Muscular yelled at Kurama. With pleasure, even though you didn't say the magic word, Kurama said, before he swung his tails and threw the villain into a water tower on a rooftop nearby, smashing it. Did you have to destroy the roof of a building? Naruto asked, as he approached Kurama, while his body was glowing with a green aura. Where is Will? Kurama asked, as he looked at Naruto. She took those two to the hospital, Naruto said, as he looked up at the building's rooftop, where Muscular was pushing the water tower off himself, before tossing it to the side. You want to fight me, you stupid beast? Fine. Muscular yelled before he covered himself in his muscles and launched himself at Kurama and Naruto with a roar. Naruto and Kurama quickly jumped back, causing the villain to slam into the ground, as a crater formed. Naruto made a few hand signs with his hands before he slammed his palm on the ground, which caused the ground around him and where Muscular was standing to turn into a swamp, which the villain started to sink into. You think this will stop me, Blondie? Muscular yelled, as he struggled to force his way out of the swamp. Nope, but this probably will, Naruto said, as he nodded at Kurama, who pounced at Muscular and slashed at the villain's face, slashing his eye. Gah! Motherfunker! You took my eye! Muscular yelled, as he grabbed his bleeding eye, while glaring at Kurama with his remaining eye. Oh, quit your crying! You haven't gotten the worst of it yet, Kurama said with a grin, as he jumped back to where Naruto was standing. What are you on about? Muscular yelled out, not noticing Will appearing above him, her arm held up high in the sky, with lightning charged in her hand. El Thor! Will yelled before she threw her arm down, as she summoned a massive amount of lighting, which engulfed the villain. Gaaha! Muscular yelled, as he was electrocuted. When the massive attack finally faded, Muscular was charred black and smoking. Now you're done, Kurama said with a smirk, as he poked him with his tails, knocking the villain over. You okay, babe? Naruto asked, as Will walked over to him panting for breath. My stamina sucks, since my power was made a quirk, Will grumbled with a scowl. Well, you better be okay to move. 'Cause we don't want to be here when the police and heroes show up, Kurama said as he scowled. Kurama, Naruto said, as he pointed at a nearby news chopper, which was in the air. Cheese it! Kurama yelled before he tried to run. But he suddenly shrunk down and slammed on to the ground. Gah! What the hell? He yelled, as he stood up and looked himself over. Huh, and I thought that Niza was one of a kind, a voice said, getting Naruto, Will and Kurama's attention. All three looked behind them and they saw what looked like a man with a scarf made of bandages around his neck, with his hair spiked up, while wearing goggles over his eyes. I'm gonna guess he's why your quirk stopped working, Naruto said to Kurama. So he's a pro? Will asked, as she looked at the man curiously. Don't resist and we can handle this without fighting, the man said with a tired tone. If you think that I'm gonna, Kurama was yelling, before he was cut off. I am here! A booming voice yelled, as a figure landed nearby. It was a large, muscular man, who had blonde hair, a wide grin on their face, and wore a blue and red suit, with yellow on his forearms and yellow boots. Oh great, the man said with a groan of annoyance, as he rubbed his forehead. Whoa, it's All Might, Naruto said with a grin, seeing the #1 hero in Japan. All Might looked down into the crater where the defeated Muscular was laying down, knocked out. I say, you youngsters actually gave this villain quite a beating. Ha ha ha! He said with a laugh. This isn't a good thing, All Might, the man with a scarf said, as he sighed. Ah yes, of course, Aizawa, All Might said as he sighed. Hey, if we hadn't helped, then those two heroes in the scuba suits would be dead. So how's about some thanks? Will yelled, as she glared at Aizawa. What's this? You actually saved someone? All Might asked curiously. Yes, sir. Me and Kurama here distracted him, while we got them to the hospital nearby, seeing as she was the fastest of us, Naruto said, deciding it was best to be honest. I see. That's wonderful. All Might yelled, as he smiled brightly at this. Aizawa sighed at this, as he shook his head. Look, let's just get these three to the police and get those statements, he said. Wait, you're gonna arrest us? Kurama yelled out. But we stopped him from killing anyone. Arrest him, not us. Will yelled, as she pointed at Muscular. He will be locked up, rest assured, young lady, All Might said, as police cars and trucks arrived. Guys, just go along with them, Naruto said, as he held up his hands in surrender. Will and Kurama both scowled at this, before they too surrendered. Later, at the police station. Later on at the police station, All Might and Aizawa were both sitting in a room that had displays that showed recordings of 3 different rooms where Naruto, Will and Kurama were being questioned by All Might's friend, Naomasa Tsukauchi, a police detective who had a quirk that allowed him to see if someone was telling the truth. So we have 2 teens and an animal with a quirk, who are wannabe heroes, Aizawa said, as he crossed his arms. They seem to have potential from what I see. It would be a waste to just discourage them, when they obviously have the talent to be heroes, All Might said. The only one with a brain is the blonde. It was his plan that made this go as well as it did, Aizawa said, as he looked at the footage of Naruto, who was leaning back on his chair, with his feet on the table. The other 2 have potential too, even if they are rough around the edges, All Might said, as he looked at the images of Will and Kurama, with Will looking bored while Kurama was yelling all kinds of things at the top of his voice. So, what do we do with them now? Aizawa asked, as he crossed his arms. All Might looked at the 2 teens and Fox, before he smiled as an idea hit him. With Naruto. Naruto, Will and Kurama were now in a room together, waiting for the police and the heroes to finish talking to each other. So what do you think they are gonna do with us? Will asked Naruto curiously. Well, seeing as we got on the news for this, we will probably get the book thrown at us, Naruto said, as he held up his phone, which showed their fight against Muscular. Before anyone could respond, the door opened and All Might, Aizawa and Detective Naomasa entered the room. You won't take me alive, copper! Kurama yelled, as he attempted to run through the door, before Will stomped on his tail, stopping him. Moron, Will said with a scoff at the fox, as he yelped in pain. If you weren't the brat's woman, I would MPPH. Kurama was yelling, before Naruto covered his mouth with his hand. Sorry about him. He's a bit of a hothead, Naruto said. Not at all, young man. If anything, it shows he's spirited, All Might said, as he smiled. So, how long are we gonna be locked up for? Will asked, as she frowned. Heads up, don't lock her up in a place with electronics, Kurama grumbled under his breath. Aizawa raised an eyebrow at this, but said nothing. You all won't be going to jail, seeing as you all have gotten so much support from civilians, who witnessed the fight and the fact that you saved the water hose heroes, Detective Naomasa said with a smile. So are they okay? Will asked, as she and Naruto smiled at this. Indeed. Though I'm afraid that they will have to retire from hero work, after the wounds they got, All Might said as he frowned. So we're off the hook? Kurama asked, as his ears perked up and he smiled. We didn't say that, Aizawa said, as he gave the fox a look. Nice job, Fluffy, Will said, as she glared at Kurama, who growled slightly at her. So what's gonna happen now? Naruto asked curiously. We have a proposal for you three, that I think you may like, All Might said, as he smiled widely at them. And that is? Naruto asked, as he raised an eyebrow at this, along with Will and Kurama. Sometime later, back at their apartment. This is bullshit! Kurama yelled, as he sat on Naruto's shoulder, as they entered their apartment. I think we got a good deal, Naruto said, as he smiled. Yeah, considering anyone else would have at least gotten time, Will said with a sigh of relief, as she walked over to the couch and sat down. We're being forced to take some exam for a hero school, Kurama yelled, as he jumped off Naruto's shoulder. The best hero school in Japan, Naruto said with a smile, as he held up a pamphlet, which had the symbol UA on the front, as he sat next to Will. And who says that I want to be a hero? Kurama yelled, as he looked at Naruto in annoyance. Well, it's better than you being a villain or something stupid, Will said, as she turned on the TV. Why the hell should I accept this? Kurama yelled out. Well, there's the fact that the principal apparently is an animal with a quirk like you, Naruto said, as he looked at the pamphlet. Say what? Kurama asked, raising an eyebrow at this. You're kidding, Will said, as she raised an eyebrow at this. Oh yeah. All the staff at this place are all pro-heroes, and that includes the principal. Here, take a look, Naruto said, as he showed them the pamphlet, which had a picture of what looked like a humanoid mouse wearing a suit. They let a mouse be a hero? Kurama yelled out in surprise. Sure looks like it, Naruto said with a shrug, as this didn't seem odd to him. What's the matter, Kurama? Are you afraid that you won't be as good as this Nisa? Will asked with a smirk. Grrrrrrrrrr. I'll show you all. I'll be the best animal hero ever, Kurama yelled as he growled. A hero out of spite. Just wonderful, Naruto said with a sigh, while shaking his head at his fox friend. Whatever drives him, babe, Will said, as she shrugged slightly. Well, we have a few weeks before the exam, so we should probably study. From what All Might and Mr. Aizawa said, the exam has a written and practical part, Naruto said. We have practical locked, Will said, as she pointed at the TV, which was showing a news report about their fight with Muscular. "Hey, they got my good side," Kurama said happily, as they showed an image of Kurama throwing Muscular like a ragdoll with his tails. "And which part is that?" Will asked with a smirk. Kurama growled before smoke started to come out of his mouth. "Okay, let's relax. We have had a long day, so who wants pizza?" Naruto asked, as he took out his phone. "Meat lovers!" Kurama yelled, as his tail wagged happily. "5 cheese for me, babe," Will said with a smile at Naruto. Naruto nodded at this, as he made the call, glad that All Might had given them some money, so that they could get by for the foreseeable future, after he heard about their situation. A few weeks later, Naruto and Will walked towards a large building that was colored blue and had windows all over it. "Wow, this place goes all out, doesn't it?" Will asked, as she looked up at the examination building, as other examinees walked past them. Before Naruto could say anything, someone walked past him, shoving him slightly. That someone was a teen boy, who had spiky sandy blonde hair, with sharp red eyes. "Stay out of my way, cat boy," the teen growled, as he walked past Naruto. "Cat boy? Why don't you say that to my face, you limp noodle?" Kurama yelled, as he stuck his head out of Naruto's hoodie and yelled after the teen, before Naruto could even respond. "Nice one, Mushu," Will said with a groan, as she slapped her forehead at Kurama's immaturity. "What did you say to me?" the teen yelled, as he turned and looked at them, his palms making small explosions. "I said that the exams are soon," Naruto said, as he pointed ahead while Kurama snickered. The teen growled at this, before he continued walking, shoving past another teen boy. This one had a mop of green hair that was curling up at odd angles around his head. "Out of the way, Deku!" the blonde teen yelled, as the green-haired boy fell to the ground. Naruto frowned at this, before he approached the teen with green hair. "Are you okay?" he asked the teen, as he held out his hand to him. "Yeah, I'm okay. Don't worry, oh my gosh! You're that guy who helped save the water hose heroes a few weeks ago," the green-haired teen said, as he looked at Naruto and recognized him. "I helped too, Fanba!" Kurama yelled, as he looked at the boy from his perch on Naruto's head. "Oh wow! Another animal with a quirk. Does your quirk give you higher intelligence, or is it different from Nisa? How big can you make yourself?" How the teen was asking rapidly, before he was cut off. "Whoa there. Take a breath," Will said with a chuckle at this. "Oh, sorry. I'm just fascinated by quirks. I'm Izuku Midoriya," the teen said, as he bowed his head at them. "Nice to meet you, Midoriya. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. This is Will Van Nam and Kurama," Naruto said as he smiled at Izuku, deciding to introduce him and the others to the teen. Is Will a common name for a girl from the States?" Izuku asked curiously, as he looked at Will. Will's eyebrow twitched at this, as her hair sparked lightly, surprising Izuku and other examinees walking by. "Wrong subject, broccoli head," Kurama said, as he snickered at this. "I think the exams are gonna start soon. We should get moving," Naruto said with a chuckle at this, as he grabbed Will and pushed her forward. "Oh! Good luck to you three!" Izuku yelled after them. Naruto sighed as he shoved Will into her seat in the room, where they were gonna take their written exam, before he too sat down, as Kurama jumped into the seat next to him, before the written exams soon started. Later, Naruto, Will and Kurama walked out of the examination hall. "God, I hate written exams!" Will yelled, as she walked ahead of Naruto and Kurama a bit, with her arms stretched over her head. "Oh, quit complaining, Wilma. At least you have hands to write with," Kurama yelled, as he was still getting used to using his tail to write. "Call me Wilma again, and I'll jam my fist down your throat," Will yelled, as she turned to look at Kurama with a glare. Don't threaten me with a good time. I'm not into that, Kurama said before he started to snicker. Okay, let's just find out what battlefield we're assigned to, for the practical part of the exam, Naruto said, as he got in between them. Oh yeah, they gave us our assigned battlefields as we left, Will said, as she looked at an envelope that she had been given. All three of them opened their envelopes and looked at the assigned battlefields. It looks like we're all on different battlefields, Naruto said, as he sighed at this. It's probably so that we can't team up together and make it unfair, Will said as she shrugged, as she knew that she would be fine. Yeah, I don't need backup. It's trashing robots, for crying out loud, Kurama said, as he scoffed at this. Okay, let's go then. Try not to make too much of a scene, Naruto said, as they all split up to go to their assigned battlefields. No promises, Kurama yelled, as he ran off towards his battlefield. Later in the observation room. Inside the observation room, all of the teachers were watching as the examinees were taking the exam. Looks like a pretty good crop this year, a small humanoid mouse said with a smile. The fox one seems to be a bit. A small man with a large yellow helmet was saying, before he trailed off, as he looked at an image of Kurama who had grown to the size of an elephant and tackled a three-pointer, before he cackled madly, as he breathed fire at a swarm of other robots. Crazy as hell? A man with a white coat and a never-ending wide grin asked, deciding to be blunt. The blonde one with the whisker marks on his cheeks seems confident, a woman with a red domino mask said, as she licked her lips. Midnight, show some control, damn it. He's a possible student, Aizawa said, as he sighed at this. Oh, relax, I'm not some crater robber. But that won't stop me from messing with him, so he is immune to a villain's looks, Midnight said, as she waved her hand dismissively. Man, that redhead is crazy fast. She's making Ingenium's little bro look like a slowpoke. A man with a large speaker around his neck yelled, as he pointed at footage of Will zipping around the battlefield and smashing robots' heads with electric-charged kicks and punches. Let's see how all of them react to a no-win situation, Aizawa said, as he pushed a big button on the dashboard. With Naruto, whose body was glowing green, slugged a three-pointer as it was approaching a teen girl with purple hair and what looked like long earlobes hanging from her ears. Are you okay? Naruto asked the girl, as he looked at her to check on her. The girl blinked at this, before she blushed a bit, before she quickly composed herself. Yeah, I'm fine, Blondie. Hey, watch your back! She yelled, as she sent her earphone jacks flying over Naruto's shoulder, which hit a three-pointer in the head, causing it to fall over, defeated. Huh, not bad, Naruto said with a chuckle at this, before he nodded at the girl. The girl nodded at this, and before she could respond, there was a loud crash as the building nearby exploded, as what looked like a very large robot appeared, that had 8 glowing eyes. Oh great, the zero-pointer is here, Naruto said, as he narrowed his eyes at this. We should get out of here, the teen girl yelled. Yeah, you're right. But we should help others get out of here too, Naruto said, as he nodded at the girl, before they started to run. As Naruto ran, he saw what looked like an invisible figure pinned under some rubble. Someone help me! A female voice yelled from under the rubble. Naruto quickly ran over to the invisible figure, and quickly moved the rubble off them, showing that they were female from the figure that was showing, thanks to their clothes. Thanks for the help, Ao, the invisible girl was saying, before she yelped in pain, as she stood up. Are you hurt? Naruto asked curiously, as he saw that she was limping. Yeah. I think I sprained my ankle, the girl was saying, before Naruto scooped her up into his arms bridal style. Can you turn off your quirk, so that I can take a look later? Naruto asked, as he ran with her in his arms. No, sorry. My quirk is always on, the girl said with a slightly sad tone. Well, I'm sure that the staff here can help you then. Don't worry, I'll find you help, Naruto said with a smile at the invisible girl, so that she would be at ease. My hero, the invisible girl said with a giggle. Earlier with Will. Meanwhile with Will, she was zipping around her battlefield, smashing robots with electricity-charged kicks and punches. I wonder if I'll get more points if I turn the robots against each other, Will mused to herself, as she stood looking at all the robots she'd destroyed. Hey, watch your back, Karo, a voice said, as what looked like a tongue flew at a robot coming at Will from the side, smacking it in the face, making it back off. Will turned her head and looked at where the tongue went, and saw what looked like a green-haired teen girl, who was crouched on the side of a building like a frog. Will looked at this girl and her eyes widened slightly, as she looked at her. Karo? The girl croaked, as she tilted her head to the side curiously, as Will looked at her. So cute! Will yelled out, as she looked at the girl, her eyes turning into hearts. Karo? The girl croaked, with a light blush appearing on her emotionless face, at what Will just said. Before Will could respond to this, the ground behind her burst, as a zero-pointer came out of the ground, making the other examinees yell in a panic, before running off, including the frog girl. Will frowned at this, before she glared at the zero-pointer. Hey! You scared her off, damn it! She yelled, as she made what looked like a pair of fairy wings appear on her back, before she took off flying into the air. Observation room. Looks like we have a flyer in this crop of examinees this year, Nisa said, as he smiled seeing this. She may be able to fly, but that won't help her beat the zero-pointer, Aizawa said, as he shook his head slightly. With Will. Will hovered in the air in front of the zero-pointer as it approached her. Will said nothing to this, before she snapped her fingers, making a spark of electricity fly at the zero-pointer, and when the spark hit it, its red eyes turned blue. Tear yourself apart! Will yelled at the zero-pointer. Sweet release, the zero-pointer yelled, as it started to smash itself against the ground and hit itself with its arms. And after a few moments, the zero-pointer was completely trashed. Heh, I still got it. Oh, damn it! Will yelled as her wings disappeared, causing her to start to fall, thanks to her running out of power. But before she could hit the ground, what looked like a tongue wrapped around Will and caught her, causing her to hang in the air. You're lucky that you're not that heavy, Karo the frog girl croaked out, as she crouched on a rooftop and held onto Will. My froggy hero, Will said with a smile at the frog girl. Observation room. All the teachers were dumbstruck at what they just saw happen. She can hack technology and make it obey her power, Loader said, with a surprised look on his face. She'll be quite a powerful hero, a gray-skinned man with a block-like head said. Indeed, Cementos. We're lucky that you and Aizawa found her and convinced her to enter the exam, All Might Nisa said, as he looked at the number 1 hero. Agreed. If he was still around, I wouldn't be surprised if he'd have somehow recruited her or tried to take her, Quirk All Might thought with a nod and a slight scowl, as he thought of the past. With Kurama. Meanwhile with Kurama, he was still tearing apart several robots with his fangs and claws. Gahahaha. I haven't had this much fun in years, Kurama yelled as he laughed madly, as he sat on top of a pile of robot pieces. Watching this from an alleyway nearby was a teen boy, who had the head of a raven. He's kinda an edgelord, that Tokoemi? A shadow creature asked, as it appeared out of the teen's chest. Tokoemi said nothing to this, as the ground shook and what looked like a zero-pointer burst out of the ground, making all of the examinees in the area run away in a panic. Oh, come on! Don't just give up! You think giving up will stop a real villain? Kurama yelled at his fellow examinees, as they ran away. You think that we stand a chance against something like that? A small teen with purple hair that was in balls on his head yelled, as he briefly looked back. "Go ahead and run then, you punk ass!" Kurama yelled before he turned to glare at the 0-pointer. Before he was grabbed by the shadow creature that was coming out of Tokoimi. "Hey! What the hell?" Kurama asked, as he looked at the teen. "Seeing as this is a test, it would be smarter to flee like we were told and perhaps help those that are unable to get away," Tokoimi said, as he jerked a thumb at some fellow examinees, who were having trouble getting away thanks to debris, which included the short teen with purple balls on his head. Kurama thought about this, as he knew that this teen probably had a point. "Grrrr, fine," he yelled before he ran away from the approaching 0-pointer and towards the fleeing examinees, before he grabbed the short teen with purple balls on his head with his tails. "Put me down, damn it!" the teen yelled in a panic. "Shut up and let me help you, you worthless midget!" Kurama yelled, as he grabbed some other examinees and continued to run away from the 0-pointer. As he ran, the buzzer went off, signaling the end of the exams. Observation room. I didn't expect the fox to actually make a smart move," Aizawa said, as he raised an eyebrow at the footage of Kurama. "Though he could use some work on putting people at ease," All Might said as he shook his head at the fact that Kurama yelled at his fellow examinees to keep moving. "He's not as bad as the kid who racked up the most villain points. At least he actually got some rescue points," Midnight said, as she shrugged slightly. "Well now, let's all discuss who made the cut this year and decide who goes where," Nisa said with a smile, as he stood up in his chair. With Naruto. Naruto was standing outside of the examination building, waiting for Will and Kurama. "Hey Whiskers, thanks again for the help," the invisible girl yelled, as she waved at Naruto, before she ran off. Naruto smiled at this and waved back at the girl, before he spotted Will and Kurama approaching and paused, as he noticed Will's bright smile on her face. "What's got you so happy?" he asked curiously, as they approached him. "I met a cute frog girl that actually helped me out during the exam," Will said with a smile. Naruto chuckled at this, as he figured that with mutant-type quirks being a thing, he figured frog-type people would be a possibility. So this reaction from Will wasn't a surprise, seeing as she loved frogs. "Ugh. Only you would find frogs cute," Kurama said, as he sat down and scratched his ear. "Better a frog than another foul-mouthed meathead like you," Will said, as she glared at Kurama. "I may be foul-mouthed, but at least I don't secrete slime," Kurama said with a scoff at this, as he jumped onto Naruto's head. "Okay, new subject. How did you two do on the practical exam?" Naruto asked, as they all started walking away from the examination building. "Pretty good. Thankfully, I was able to get a lot done before I ran out of energy," Will said, as she slightly cursed her stamina giving out on her. "You showed off by hacking some robots, didn't you? I told you that drains you a lot faster, babe," Naruto said, as he sighed at this. "I had a blast. I was able to trash a lot of robots. I even helped some pissant get to safety when that giant robot showed up," Kurama said with a grin. "Ha! I beat you, Fluffy. I was actually able to stop my 0-pointer," Will said with a smug look on her face. "Yeah, and you had to get saved by some frog girl after your stamina crapped out, youch. Cut the crap," Kurama was saying, before Will sent a spark at him, zapping him and making his fur go on end. Naruto sighed at this as his girlfriend and friend left the area and approached the train to go home. With the teachers. "Okay, so we have a few spots left in the hero course. So let's make this count," People Nisa said, as he looked at the files of the possible choices. "Okay, Kurama or Minoru Mineta?" Midnight asked, as she held up 2 files. "Mineta has had several complaints in his past school for harassing female students. Plus, after doing a background check, I don't think he has the best reasons for being a hero," Aizawa said with a sigh. "Neither does the fox," from what I'm reading. He looks like a battle junkie present, Mike said, as he read Kurama's file. Yeah, but he shows loyalty, despite how brash he acts, All Might said, as he recalled his fight with Muscular and how he backed up Naruto and Will. All in favor of Kurama in the hero course? Nisa asked the teachers. This got most of them to raise their hands. Very well. Aizawa, he's all yours, seeing as you tend to excel at vying out the best in problem children, Nisa said, as he nodded and stamped Kurama's file with a hero label and a general studies stamp on Mineta's file. Now, what about Naruto Uzumaki? A man who was dressed like a cowboy with a mask covering his face asked. According to his file, his quirk allows him to use nature energy to augment his body and use techniques he comes up with, Samantha said, as he looked over Naruto's file. Very versatile. Plus, he's got a good amount of rescue points and villain points present, Mike said as he nodded. Okay, he's all yours, Aizawa, seeing as according to his file, he's good at keeping Kurama in line, Nisa said, as he drank some tea. Aizawa nodded at this, as he had no problem with this. Okay, we have 2 hero students left. Wilma Van Am and Denki Kaminari, both with electricity quirks, Midnight said, as he held up their files. I'll take Kaminari. He needs some work and my training regime will toughen him up, a large muscular man with white hair and a red suit said, as he crossed his arms. Good. Miss Van Nam needs someone with a tactical mind to teach her to use her ability to hack anything electronic the right way, Aizawa said, as he took Will's file and looked at it. Are you saying that I can't be tactical, Aizawa? The man in red yelled in a rage. Calm down, Vlad. You got the student you wanted, Nisa said, as he ate some cheese. Okay, now that we have our hero students picked out, let's move on to other matters, Aizawa said, as they continued to judge the other examinees. A few weeks later with Naruto. It was midday and Naruto, Will and Kurama were all sitting in their apartment, just relaxing, seeing as they were still waiting for their results for their entrance exams. Gah! I can't take the waiting anymore. Will yelled as she threw her hands in the air, sending a bowl of chips flying. Oh, I was eating those! Kurama yelled out, as he glared at Will. You can still eat them, Naruto said, as he had seen Kurama eat things off the floor before. I ate that under duress. I am not some pet! Kurama yelled, as he tried not to look at the chips on the floor, but was failing badly. Naruto rolled his eyes at this, before he looked at Will. Babe, calm down. I'm sure that our results will arrive soon, he said to her. Yeah, so stop stressing before you get gray hair, Kurama said, as he started edging towards the chips on the floor. You're not worried? Did you just call me old, you trash-eating furball? Will was saying, before she realized what Kurama was saying and started yelling. Please, we are more qualified than any of the other sorry wannabes that showed up at that exam. If they don't take us then, they would be crazy, Kurama said, as he scoffed at this. Well, he's not wrong, Naruto said, as he chuckled at Kurama's attempt to put them at ease, even if it was in a rude and blunt way. Before Will could respond to this, they heard a knock on their door. Oh, finally! Will said, as she walked over to the door and opened it, seeing a man in a postman uniform. Special delivery, miss, the man said, as he held out a letter with a UA symbol on it. Thanks. Here, go buy yourself something nice, Will said, as she took the letter and handed the man a 1,000-yen bill. The man smiled at this, as he tipped his hat at Will before leaving. Just one letter? Kurama asked, as Will came back over to them. Well, seeing as we live together it makes sense, Naruto said, as he shrugged. Will opened the letter and as she ripped it open, what looked like a small disc fell out and landed on the coffee table. What the heck is this? Kurama asked, as he sniffed the disc curiously. The disc then lit up and it started to project a holographic image of Nisa. Greetings, Mr. Uzumaki, Miss Van Dam and Kurama, the mouse hero said with a smile, as he waved at them. Wow, a holographic projection of our results. UA sure goes all out, Naruto said, as he looked at the projection. Well now, seeing as I have 3 of you to get through, let's get started. First, we have you Mr. Uzumaki, who was able to rack up 45 villain points and 25 rescue points. Very impressive, Nisa said with a grin. Wait, rescue points? Naruto asked curiously, raising an eyebrow at this. As a hero school, we also judge the practical exam based on how you help your fellow examinees, if they need it. And I must say, you have very good instincts. Welcome to UA High, Nisa said as he nodded, as images of Naruto helping his fellow students at the exam appeared, including him helping the invisible girl and the girl with earphone jacks. Hello? Will said with a smile seeing this. Oh boy, here we go, Kurama said with a groan, as he smacked his paw over his eyes. Save it for later, babe. I think you're next, Naruto said, as Nisa moved on. Now, Miss Van Dam, I must say, it was actually quite a task to keep up with you, as you're probably one of the fastest examinees we have had in years, Nisa said with a smile, as images of Will speeding around the battlefield attacking robots appeared. Will smiled at this, while Naruto patted her on the shoulder. Therefore, you were able to rack up 43 villain points, and your little display with the 0-pointer netted you 22 rescue points, seeing as your actions were able to give your fellow examinees time to get away. Though I must say, your stamina needs work, Nisa said. I know, damn it! Will yelled, as she crossed her arms and pouted at this. But we can help you with that. So welcome to UA High, Nisa said with a smile. Yes, Will said as she pumped her fists happily, while Naruto smiled at her. And now, finally, we come to my fellow animal, who I must say has quite the quirk, Nisa said, as he showed images of Kurama growing bigger and smashing robots with his claws and tails, while breathing fire at the robots, while also laughing madly. You were able to rack up 75 villain points, but no rescue points. I'm afraid that dragging a fellow student when he yells at you is not very becoming of a hero, Kurama, Nisa said, as he showed an image of Kurama dragging the boy with purple balls on his head, instead of carrying him with his tails. Will and Naruto both snorted at this, while Kurama scoffed. But beyond that, you were able to make second place in points. And I'm sure that we can help you with learning a more gentle touch. So welcome to UA High, Nisa said as he nodded. Wait, if I was second place, then who was first place? Kurama asked with a beeped eyebrow. I'm sure that we will find out, Naruto said, as he patted Kurama on the head, seeing he was annoyed at only getting second. Your assigned school IDs are in the envelope. Please be sure to send in your quirk registration forms and your hero outfit requests, before the date provided. See you all in school, Nisa said with a wave, before the hologram turned off. Thankfully, we already have our quirk paperwork, Naruto said, as Aizawa had told them to have that ready. What's this shit about a hero outfit? I am not wearing spandex, damn it! Kurama yelled loudly, as he shook his head. Naruto and Will both sighed at this, as they tried to calm Kurama down and convince him to think up a hero outfit. With Naruto. It had been a few weeks since Naruto, Will and Kurama had officially gotten into UA High, and after getting all their paperwork done, they were now set and ready to begin their new adventure. Currently the trio were all on a U train, which was taking them to the neighborhood where the school was. How do you think we'll do at this place? Will asked Naruto, as she stood next to him, as they knew their stop was coming up. I'm sure that we will do just fine, Naruto said with a smile. Why the hell am I wearing this dumbass vest? Kurama growled, as he scratched at his vest, which had his school ID on the front and his backpack strapped to the back. Because you're not immune from the uniform requirement, Fluffy Will said, as she looked at Kurama, while wearing her new UA student uniform, which was a gray jacket, a small red tie, a white shirt, black stockings and a green skirt. Yeah. A school this prestigious would have a uniform, Naruto said with a nod, as he had the same uniform, only his had pants instead of a skirt. This better be worth a headache, Kurama said with an annoyed look on his face. Here's our stop, so keep up, Naruto said, as the U-train stopped and people started to get off. Kurama grumbled at this, as the two teens and Animal walked off the train. Soon, they were standing in front of the gates to UA High School, which had several students starting to arrive. Which one of these do you think will be in the same class as us? Will asked, as she looked at all the students curiously. I'm sure we will find out soon enough. Thankfully, we're all in the same class together, Naruto said, as they all walked through the gates. As they walked onto campus, some of the students took notice of them and started to whisper among themselves. What's their problem? Kurama asked curiously, as he raised an eyebrow. They probably watched what we did on the news against that muscular guy, Will said with a shrug. That and well, you are unique, Kurama, Naruto said with a grin. Ahoy! This isn't a circus show. So clear out, Kurama said with a nod before he yelled at the students watching them. This made the students jump in surprise before they all ran off. Naruto and Will rolled their eyes at this as they went into the school building, and soon they were standing in front of a classroom with the giant label 1A on the front of the door. This is our class, Will said as she approached the door. Try to behave, Kurama, Naruto said to his fox friend. I make no promises, Kurama said, as Will opened the door. The three new students entered the classroom and saw that it was mostly full of students either sitting at their desks or standing around talking with each other. Hey, it's you! A cheery female voice yelled, as what looked like a floating female uniform ran over to them, more specifically Naruto. Hey, you made it to the hero course. Hagakure, right? Naruto asked the invisible girl. Yep, that's me. Hagakure Toru, nice to see you again, Toru said, as she waved at Naruto. Huh, she's pretty outgoing for an invisible girl, Kurama said, raising an eyebrow at this. Excuse me, a stern voice said, getting Naruto's attention. Naruto looked behind him and saw that a teen boy with glasses wearing the uniform approached him. Yes? Naruto asked curiously, as he looked at the teen. Is that your pet? Pets aren't allowed on campus, the teen boy said with a firm look. Who the hell are you calling a pet for eyes? Kurama yelled loudly, getting everyone's attention. Oh wow. So that fox with the quirk actually got into you, a girl with pink hair and skin tone said. This was Mina Ashido. Huh? You are a student? The teen with glasses asked, as he looked at Kurama, while adjusting his glasses. Can't you see the student ID on my vest? Kurama growled out in annoyance, pointing at his ID with his tail. Yeah, he was on the news recently, Naruto said, deciding to chime in. Please forgive me. I'm Tenya Ida. I'm afraid I am a bit behind on recent news, thanks to my studies on getting into UA, the teen said, as he bowed his head at Kurama in apology, before looking at Naruto. You call me a pet again and I'll rip out your MPPPH, Kurama was saying, before Naruto grabbed his mouth. Nice to meet you. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, this is Kurama and this is Will. Where is Will? Naruto was saying, before he noticed Will was not with them. I'm so glad we're in the same class, Will said with a smile, as she greeted the frog girl she had met back at the exams. Oh boy, Naruto said, as he shook his head with a smile, before he approached Will and the frog girl. Sorry about her. She really likes frogs, he said to the frog girl. She does? Karo the frog girl asked, before she tilted her head to the side curiously. She's also bi, so watch your back, Kurama was saying, before Will slapped the back of his head. Don't frame me as a deviant, Fluffy, Will growled out, as she glared at Kurama. Yeah, like you're not, Kurama said with a scoff at this, causing Will to growl in annoyance. Sorry about that, Miss Naruto said to the frog girl. Tsuyu, the frog girl said with a casual tone. Nice to meet you, Tsuyu, Will said with a smile at Tsuyu. Excuse me, but did you say that your name was Naruto Uzumaki? A teen boy with red spiky hair asked, as he walked over. Yeah. And no, not the ramen-topping, Naruto said, deciding to get that confusion out of the way. I would hope your parents weren't that mean, Whiskers, a teen girl with jacks hanging from her ears said. Hey! Kyoka, right? Naruto asked with a smile at the teen girl. Kyoka Jiro, she said with a nod, as she approached her desk and sat down. Naruto nodded at this, before he looked at the redhead who had approached him. Sorry, you were saying? He asked him. Yeah. You, the American girl, and the fox were those guys who beat up that villain and saved those water hose heroes, right? The redhead asked with a grin at Naruto. Yeah, that was us, Naruto said as he nodded, while Will and Kurama smiled. Wait, you three actually attacked a villain? Ida asked, as he looked at them in surprise. You guys were awesome. So manly. I'm Eijiro Kurishima, nice to meet you, the teen said, as he held out his hand to Naruto, which he took and shook. Faye, so they saved some no-name heroes, a voice said with a scoff. Everyone turned and looked at a teen boy, who was sitting at his desk while resting his feet on it. Hey, isn't that the guy you insulted at the exam? Will asked Kurama. Not exactly narrowing it down, Kurama said, as he scratched his ear. You shouldn't put your feet on the desk, Ida said, as he approached the teen. As this was happening, the door to the classroom opened and Izuku entered the classroom, before freezing at seeing Ida and the blonde he was talking to. Hey! You're Izuku, right? Naruto asked, as he spotted the teen, recognizing him from the exam. Oh! Uzumaki, Vandam and Kurama. I'm glad to see you made it into the hero course, Izuku said with a relieved smile. Vandam? That's American, right? A teen girl asked Will in English, surprising her and making her look at her. The girl who had talked to her had her hair tied into a spiky ponytail, with a large strand hanging on the right side of her face. Yeah, I'm American. Wow, you speak English really well, Will said with a smile at the teen girl. Thank you. Your Japanese is really good too. I'm Yayoro's Momo. It's nice to meet you, the girl said, as she bowed her head in greeting. Likewise, Will said with a nod at her, as she smiled. Okay, everyone, quiet down, Aizawa said, as he entered the classroom and everyone went to their desks. Oh great, you're our homeroom teacher? Kurama grumbled under his breath. Afraid so, Aizawa said with a flat tone, as he stood at a small podium. What's with the sleeping bag, Teach? Will asked, taking note of the fact that the teacher had entered the room, while inside a sleeping bag, before getting out of it. Maybe he moonlights as a caterpillar, Kurama said with a snicker, getting some giggles from some other students. Please forgive him, sir, he's a moron, Naruto said as he sighed at this, while Ida gave Kurama a look of disapproval. I was briefed on that already. Now everyone please put on your gym uniform and meet me outside, Aizawa said with a firm tone, ignoring Kurama's growls of annoyance. Sir, shouldn't we be going to the opening ceremonies with the other students? A teen girl with auburn hair and short bangs, with two long strands framing her face. This was Ochiko Uraraka. You're all here to be heroes. Opening ceremonies are a waste of time. Now get dressed and meet me outside, Aizawa said with a firm tone of voice, as he left the classroom. Well, at least he is to the point, Naruto said, as they all quickly left the classroom. Whatever. He better keep his weird-ass eyes off me, Kurama grumbled, as he followed Naruto and Will. Oh, relax. As long as you don't act like a moron, he won't do that, Will said. Yeah. And you just try not to be a pervert to the girls in the locker room, Kurama said with a scoff at Will. Will scowled at this, before she sent a spark at Kurama, making him yelp. An electricity quirk? Momo asked curiously, seeing Will's attack. You suck! Kurama yelled, as his fur went on end, as they all went out to go get dressed. Later. After everyone had gotten dressed, the hero students were now standing in the track field in front of Aizawa, while wearing a blue gym uniform. Okay, let's get started. Bakugo, how far were you able to throw a ball back in middle school? Aizawa asked the blonde boy. 58 meters, Bakugo said as he stepped forward. Okay, take a ball and throw it. But here, use your quirk. You can do whatever you want, you just can't leave the circle, Aizawa said, as he nodded, while pointing at the circle on the ground. Bakugo smiled at this, as he approached and took a ball and readied himself to throw the ball. Die! Bakugo yelled, as he threw the ball using his quirk to set off an explosion in his hand, sending the ball flying. Aizawa then held up an electronic scanner that showed the results of the throw, which was 705.2 meters. So, this is like shot put then? Naruto asked curiously. You will be doing these different exercises, but unlike when you were in middle school, you will be using your quirks, Aizawa said with a firm tone of voice. Cool, Kirishima said, as he punched his palm in excitement. This will be fun, Mina said, as she smiled at this. Oh? You think this is fun? Okay then, whoever comes in last place today will be expelled, Aizawa said with a smile at them. This got surprised looks from everyone. You must be kidding, a teen boy with black chin-length spiky hair while his elbows have the shape of cylindrical tape dispensers. This is Hantashiro. Yeah, we worked so hard to get in here. You can't just expel us on the first day, Ochako said with a frown. Oh? I certainly can. You seem to be under the impression that this is a game, and that you are here for fun. You are here to become heroes, so you can either take this seriously or you can leave, Aizawa said with a cold tone. Everyone said nothing to this for a few moments, before they all gained determined looks on their faces. Good. Now let's get started, Aizawa said, as he pointed at all the different tests for them all to do. All of the students all quickly moved to do the tests. Later with Naruto. Naruto was in line to do the grip strength test, and in front of him was a teen boy with pale gray hair and 6 arms, and he was also wearing a face mask. This was Mizo Shoji. Huh, not a bad score, Naruto said, impressed with the teen's score on the grip machine. Shoji nodded at this, as he handed Naruto the grip tester. Naruto smiled at this, before he focused his Sage mode, then squeezed hard. Crunch! And easily crushed the grip tester in his hands. Aizawa raised an eyebrow at this, but lightly smirked, glad to see Naruto going all out. Whoa, you actually broke it. What kind of quirk are you using? A large teen boy with brown spiky hair asked with wide eyes. This was Rikido Sato. Basically, I use energy from nature to power myself up, Naruto said as he smiled sheepishly, before he noticed that Tsuyu was looking at him intensely. Are you okay, Tsuyu? He asked her, raising an eyebrow at this. Kero. What? Tsuyu croaked, as she looked at Naruto intently, before she snapped out of it, as Naruto dropped out of his Sage mode. I asked if you're okay, Tsuyu, Naruto said, as he raised an eyebrow at this. Yeah, I'm fine, Naruto-kun. Kero, Tsuyu said as she nodded, before she went to go back to her own tests, but not before watching Naruto for a few moments. Will raised an eyebrow at this, before she chuckled a little and went to the starting line for the 50-meter dash, next to Ida and a boy who had red and white hair, with half his face burned. This was Shoto Todoroki. When the start timer started to count down, Will smiled, as her body started to spark. And when it hit 0, Will took off along with Ida. Just as Ida approached the finish line, in a flash of light, Will had already crossed the finish line. 5 seconds, the computer said, giving Will's time. Not bad, Aizawa said, as he nodded at her. Thanks. Hey, no hard feelings, right? Will asked Ida as he approached her. Not at all. My brother said that having a rival will push me to do better. It is an honor to have a rival in speed, Miss Ida said with a bow of respect. Call me Will, Ida said with a chuckle at this. Is that short for something? Shoto asked, as he walked over. Kurama snickered at this, making Will scowl at this. You're up, Kurama Aizawa said, as he pointed at the bucket of balls for the ball throw. Kurama approached the circle and grabbed a ball with his tail and put it in his mouth. You're supposed to throw it, not chew on it, Bakugo said with a scoff. Kurama growled at this, as smoke started to come out of his nose before. Roar! Kurama fired a massive blast of flames from his mouth, firing the ball into the air and sending it flying like a flaming meteor. Aizawa nodded at this, as he held up his scanner, showing Kurama's score. Bakugo's eyes narrowed at this, as he saw that Kurama's score was just a single point away from catching up to him. You better watch your back, Kurama said with a smirk, as he walked past Bakugo, who growled at this, as small explosions went off in his palms. You are so immature, Will said to Kurama, as he approached her and Naruto, who were watching the others as they threw the ball. I would take your words seriously, if you weren't eyeing the frog girl like she's your next victim, Kurama said with a flat tone, as he sat next to Naruto. I have been on my best behavior, you idiot! Will growled at him. Naruto sighed at this, as he tried to ignore this, while Izuku approached the field to throw the ball. I wonder what that kid's quirk is, Kurama said, as he watched Izuku approach. Deku doesn't have a quirk, for ball, Bakugo said as he scoffed. What are you talking about? Of course he has a quirk, Ochako said, as she looked at Bakugo. Indeed. He destroyed the 0-pointer with one punch back at the exam, Ida said as he nodded at this. Whoa, you're kidding, Naruto said, as he raised an eyebrow at this. Nope. He did it to save my life, Ochako said with a smile. At least he didn't have to hack it, like some cheap ass, Kurama said with a scoff. Will growled at this, before she sent a spark of electricity at Kurama, zapping him, which caused him to jump in the air. Hey! Stop doing that, woman! Kurama yelled at her, as he glared at her. Hacking? Kyoka asked curiously, as she raised an eyebrow at Will. Yeah. In addition to making electricity, I can bring anything electronic to life, and they obey me, Will said with a grin. As Will said this, Naruto watched as Izuku was reprimanded by Aizawa, before he told him to try the throw again, and after a few moments of thought, Izuku made his finger glow before he threw his ball, this time sending it rocketing into the air and making a sonic boom. Whoa! Not bad, Naruto said, as the wind reached all of them. Since I'm still standing, Izuku said with a forced smile, as he held his fist up, showing his finger was broken and purple. This kid, Aizawa said with a smile, as he nodded at Izuku. The kid is reckless, I like him, Kurama said with a grin at this. What the hell was that, Deku? Bakugo yelled, as he made his way towards Izuku. But before he could attack him, Aizawa's bandages grabbed the teen and his eyes glowed, as he glared at him, making the explosions going off in his palms stop. I would appreciate it if you would show some restraint and not attack your fellow students. Oh, and please do try not to make me use my quirk too much, as it hurts my eyes if I do, Aizawa said with a scowl at Bakugo. Man, what a lame weakness, Will said, as she shook her head at this. Yeah, and shit, stamina is so much better, Kurama said with a snicker, while Will's eyebrow twitched at this. As everyone got back to work, Naruto took note of All Might, who was watching them from around the corner. Later, after everyone had finished with the exercises, everyone was waiting for Aizawa to show them their results, which he did by using a remote to activate a holographic image of a list of results. Wow, not bad, Uzumaki Siro said with a grin, seeing that Naruto had gotten first place, with Momo and Will getting second and third place. That's an impressive score, Momo said with a kind smile at Will. Bakugo scowled at this, seeing that he had been outdone by Naruto, Momo and Will. Izuku looked at the results, trying to find out where he was, but froze, seeing that he was in last place. Oh, by the way, I lied about expelling whoever came in last, Aizawa said, as he turned the holographic image off. Yeah! As nearly everyone exclaimed in shock. What? You actually believe that? Momo asked everyone, as she raised an eyebrow at this. Yeah. Obviously it was a ruse to make you all go all out. I mean, Plus Ultra is their school motto, right? Naruto asked, as he looked at his fellow students. You suck, bandages! Kurama yelled out in annoyance at Aizawa. Okay, you lot, go get dressed and go home. Midoriya, go see Recovery Girl, Aizawa said to the class, as he walked away. Everyone sighed in relief, as they all left to go get dressed, some of them chatting with each other. Hey Izuku, do you need help getting to the nurse's office? Naruto asked, as he approached the green-haired teen. Oh. Sure. Thank you, Uzumaki, Izuku said, as he nodded in appreciation. Call me Naruto, Naruto said as he nodded at the teen, as they walked towards the main building of the school. The next day, Naruto, Will and Kurama were all sitting in class with their fellow students, waiting for their teacher to show up for their heroic basic training class. They didn't have to wait long before. I am entering the room like a normal person, All Might yelled out, as he opened the door and entered the classroom. This got excited smiles from the class, as All Might entered the classroom. I can't believe that the number one hero is our teacher, Kirishima said, as he pumped his fists excitedly. And he's in his old school hero outfit too, Izuku said with a smile, as he took note of All Might's outfit. Oh? Is someone a huge fan of his? Do you also keep track of what he eats too? Will asked with a grin. Izuku chuckled nervously at this, obviously embarrassed at this. Ugh. Why do hero outfits have to look so stupid? Kurama grumbled under his breath. Hero outfits are part of the job, Ida said. Yeah. Plus, they can help you stand out, Mina said with a smile, as she nodded at this. Hello? I'm a talking fox with a quirk. I already stand out, Kurama yelled, as he waved his tail for emphasis. Very true. But hero outfits help us look the part. Speaking of which, you should all get dressed and meet me in Battlefield Beta, All Might said, as he took out a remote and pushed it, causing the wall nearby to open, revealing what looked like a bunch of labeled briefcases. These are your hero outfits, which you commissioned when you all got accepted into school. Now, each of you take your briefcase and go get dressed, then meet me outside, All Might said with a smile at the students. Everyone smiled at this, as they all quickly grabbed their briefcases. This crap better at least make me look decent, Kurama grumbled, as he grabbed his briefcase with his tail. Outside on Battlefield Beta, All Might was waiting for his class to arrive, so he could begin the class, and soon, everyone came out. Naruto was wearing what looked like a blue face mask to cover the bottom half of his face, an orange cloak with black flames on the bottom, combat boots on his feet, a green flak jacket over a blue shirt, and black pants. Kurama wore a giant red and white ribbon on his neck that made him look like he was a Shinto fox of legend. While Will was wearing a purple midriff-bearing crop top with long poet sleeves, a teal miniskirt, turquoise and green striped tights, and purple high-heeled shin-high boots, Along with a teal-colored domino mask over her eyes, she also had her wings out. "Ah, now you all look like heroes," All Might said with a grin at the students. "Not a bad look, Uzumaki," Kirishima said with a grin at Naruto. "Thanks. I went for a ninja look," Naruto said with a nice smile. "What's with the ribbon, Fluffy?" Bakugo asked Kurama with a scoff. "I don't know. I let Naruto and will pick my outfit," Kurama yelled. "It makes you look like a fox spirit from Shinto mythology. Very good look for a hero," Momo said with a nod. "Thanks," Kurama said with a smirk, as now that he knew what this look was supposed to represent, he was more okay with it. "Wow, your outfit looks awesome," Machiko said with a smile. "A fairy is supposed to be intimidating?" Bakugo asked with a scoff. "Give me time, firecracker," Will said with a scowl, as she made a spark between her fingers. "Okay, you lot, step forward. We're gonna draw lots," All Might said, as he pushed a box towards them. Everyone stepped up one at a time, as they put their hand in the box, before pulling out a letter that was either white or black. Soon everyone was paired off into teams of 2. Naruto was standing next to Toru, Will was with Kyoka, and Kurama stood with Momo. "Okay, so the purpose of this exercise is that some teams will be villains, who will set up in the building behind me with a bomb, and the hero teams will have 30 minutes to go inside and either secure the bomb or capture the villains with these capture tape," All Might said, as he held up some white tape in his hand. "So me and Pineapple Hair are heroes, while Will and Lobes are the villains?" Kurama asked, before he started to snicker at this. "What's so funny?" Momo asked with a raised eyebrow. "It's just funny, 'cause she usually is the one who has to come after me." "Oh, this is gonna be fun," Kurama said with a grin. "I'm not gonna make it easy for you," Fluffy Will said with a smirk at this. "So we're gonna face off against Shoji and Todoroki, huh?" Toru asked, as she looked at said students. "I'm sure we will be fine, Toru. Don't worry," Naruto said, as he smiled at the invisible girl. "Okay everyone, let's go to the observation room, while the first villain team sets up," All Might said, as he led them to another building, while Bakugo and Ida went into the building nearby, where the test would take place. Later in the observation room, everyone was watching the test going on the monitors, and needless to say, it was quite the show. "Man, Ida is really taking the role of being a villain seriously," Kirishima said. "He's trying too hard," Shoji said with a nod. "Yeah. If you want to do an evil laugh, then you need to mean it," Kurama said with a scoff. "What do you mean?" Momo asked with a beeped eyebrow. "A real villain's laugh should make you feel fear, not make you roll your eyes and laugh," Kurama said as he scoffed. "Well said, young Kurama. Knowing how the enemy thinks will get you far in being a hero," All Might said, as he gave Kurama a thumbs up and a large smile. Kurama smirked and puffed his chest out at this. "You're overthinking it, Teach. He just has experience being an asshole," Will said, as she shook her head. Kurama face planted at this, getting some laughs from the other students. "Such language is unbecoming of a future hero," All Might said with a slight frown. "Not really. I have seen some footage of that rabbit hero," Naruto said with a shudder at this. "Who do you think I'm hoping to impress at the sports festival?" Will asked with a smirk. "Okay, let's observe young Midoriya and Uraraka, and see if they can secure the bomb," All Might said, as he looked at the screens, which showed footage of the inside of the building, where the exercise was taking place. As they watched, they saw that Bakugo was focusing on Izuku and let Ochiko go, so he could focus on the fight. "Man, that kid is an idiot," Kurama said with a scoff. "Preach," Will said, as she raised a fist in the air. "Indeed. Can anyone tell me young Bakugo's mistake? Preferably, without cursing or being insulting about it," All Might asked, before looking at Will and Kurama knowingly. He's letting some personal vendetta with Midoriya cloud his judgment, Momo said, as she raised her hand. Not to mention, he isn't working with his fellow partner, which is foolish, seeing as the hero team is working together. Plus, as we can see, Izuku knows how Bakugo fights and can counter it, Naruto said, as Izuku caught one of Bakugo's strikes and judo flipped him, slamming him on the ground. Well said, young Yaoyorozu, and Uzumaki All Might said with a nod and a wide smile, as he gave them a thumbs up. They continued to watch as Bakugo got up and aimed his grenade gauntlet at Izuku and prepared to pull the pin, as he explained how it was full of his sweat, ready for him to ignite it. Is he crazy? Zero asked, as several of the class frowned at this. Yeah, this is a move I expect from you, Kurama will said, as she scowled at him. I at least have some thought, when I go into a battle. He's just an idiot throwing a tantrum, Kurama yelled. Should we tell him? Will whispered to Naruto, after a few moments of silence. Nah. Let him live in ignorance a bit, babe, Naruto whispered back at this. Hey! I can hear you, damn it! Kurama yelled at them. Bakugo! Don't do it! It's too dangerous in an enclosed space. All Might yelled into a microphone. He will be fine, if he dodges. Bakugo yelled, as he pulled the pin, causing a massive explosion to shoot at Izuku, which took out a wall in the building. After a few moments of tense silence, everyone saw that Izuku was fine. But his mask was damaged, as he stared down Bakugo, who scowled at this. Bakugo, if you use that move again, I will end the exercise. All Might yelled into the microphone. Bakugo scowled at this, before he and Izuku started to fight again, and soon, Izuku used his quirk and set off a massive sonic boom, missing Bakugo, but shattering all the windows in the building and taking out the floor underneath Ida, giving Ochako an opening to grab the bomb. Hero team wins, All Might announced, as he set off the buzzer, signaling the end of the exercise. Huh, the kid's actually clever. He not only made him back off, he gave his partner an opening to grab the bomb, Kurama said, as he scratched his ear. Yeah, but he wrecked his arm in the process, Naruto said, as he frowned as robots quickly moved to gather Izuku and get him to the nurse's office. Geez. Izuku needs to learn how to hold back, Will said, as she winced slightly, seeing this. His quirk is kinda like yours, brat. Maybe you can give him a few tips, Kurama said to Naruto, as he looked at the blonde. Not a bad idea, Naruto said, as he mused to himself a bit. All Might slightly smiled at this, as while he had been looking over Naruto's file, he saw that his quirk had some slight similarities to One for All, and he had considered encouraging Izuku to make friends with Naruto and maybe get some advice from him. So he was glad that Naruto was already considering helping the new wielder of his quirk. Okay class, let's get back to work, All Might said, as he smiled at his class, as the class continued. With Naruto and Toru. It was now Naruto and Toru's turn, and they were inside the building, as villains, guarding the bomb on the 3rd floor, waiting for Todoroki and Shoji to show up. So, what's the plan? Toru asked Naruto curiously. I have an idea what Shoji's quirk is. He can duplicate body parts on his arms, so he most likely knows what floor we are on, so be ready for anything, Naruto said, as he looked at the door. Okay. I'll go ahead and surprise them. Maybe I can take one of them out stealthily, Toru said, as she took off her gloves and boots. Do you have any training in being stealthy? Naruto asked curiously, as he tried to not think about how Toru was pretty much naked. I'm good at being quiet, if that's what you mean, Toru's voice said, as the door opened on its own. Before Naruto could answer, suddenly, the room was encased in ice. Naruto looked around in shock seeing this, as while he knew Todoroki had an ice quirk, this was not something he was expecting on day 1 of hero training. With the other students. In the monitor room with the other students, they were watching what was happening on the monitors, along with All Might. Holy crap, I mean, that's not so impressive, Kurama was yelling, before he quickly composed himself and put up a front, like he wasn't impressed. You're just saying that, because you can fight back against ice, Will said with a scoff at this. I don't think Kurama can make flames as big as a building, Mina said, as she pointed at a monitor, which showed that the entire building for the test was encased in ice. I could do it if I tried, Raccoon Eyes. Kurama yelled at Mina, obviously annoyed. I guess this was a bad matchup for Uzumaki, Momo said, as she looked at Will. Hey, don't count him out just yet, Will said with a confident smirk at this, as they continued to watch. Back with Naruto. Meanwhile, back in the room with the bomb, Shoto walked into the room and looked at Naruto, and where his eyes obviously had Toru trapped, before he started to approach the bomb. Sorry about this. I'll get you both out once this is over, Shoto said with an emotionless tone, as he was about to walk past Naruto. Before what looked like several Narutos dropped down from the ceiling at Shoto. Not that easy! The clones all yelled, as they surrounded Shoto, and two of them ran at him from the front, before they both slugged him in the chin, sending him flying back a bit, before a third kicked him in the chin from below, sending him into the air. What? Shoto thought in surprise as a Naruto appeared behind him and grabbed his arm, more specifically, wrapping his arm in the capture tape, before slamming him into the floor below. Todoroki has been captured, All Might announced over the PA system. You can make clones? How is that part of nature energy? Toru asked in confusion. I can use the energy I gather to do all kinds of techniques I come up with. It just takes time to develop them, Naruto said, as his clones disappeared, leaving him still trapped in the ice. Young Shoji has given up. The winners are the villains, All Might announced over the PA. Naruto smiled at this, before he channeled some nature energy and easily ripped his feet out of the ice. You could get out the whole time? Shoto asked curiously, as he rubbed his chin, while looking at Naruto. Yup, but I figured I should let you think you had me trapped. So you would be more likely to let your guard down when my clones jump you, Naruto said, as he nodded. Can you get me out? This is really cold for me, Tori yelled, her voice shivering a bit from the cold. Oh geez, hang on, Toru, Naruto said, as he approached Toru to help her. Hold on, let me, Shoto said, as he held out his hand, which started to let out heat, which slowly started to melt all the ice in the room. Gah! Hot! 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 Toru yelled, as the water in the room started to splash around, as the invisible girl moved around in a panic. You should really get a uniform that can turn invisible with you, Toru. I mean, with the advancements in tech, you would think they can figure that out, Naruto said with a frown at this, as he and Toru left the room. Shoto followed after them, his eyes not leaving Naruto, as he tried to think of a way he could have bested him. Later with Will. Later on, it was now Will and Kyoka's turn, and they were the hero team, while Kurama and Momo were the villains, defending the bomb inside the building. Okay, first we need to figure out where they are, Will said, as they entered the building. I can manage that, Kyoka said with a grin, as she walked over to the wall and had one of her earphone jacks plug into the wall. Ha, handy. I'm guessing that you can now hear everything in the building? Will asked with a smile at the team. Kyoka nodded at this, and after a few moments she smiled. They are on the floor right above us actually. I think Yayorozu is barricading the entrances, while Kurama guards the bomb, she said, as her earphone jack left the wall. Right, okay then, Will said with a smirk, as her wings flapped a bit and flew up into the air and approached the ceiling. You can fly? Kyoka asked, her eyes slightly widening at this, as flying heroes were rare. An example being that the only current hero of note that could fly was Hawks, the number 3 hero. Yup. Now let's do this, Will said with a grin, as her hands charged with electricity, before she slammed her hands to the ceiling and unleashed a stream of electricity into the room above them. Gah! You suck, you red-haired degenerate pervert! Kurama was heard yelling in pain, before a few thuds were heard and Will stopped unleashing her power. Wow, you knocked them out, Kyoka said, as she put her earphone jack into the wall to check. Thanks. Now, let's get up there and touch the bomb. Kurama has a higher tolerance for pain, so we only have a few minutes, Will said, as she flew back down to the ground and led Kyoka to the stairs nearby. So pervert? Kyoka asked while raising an eyebrow, as they walked up the stairs. That moron is just being a smartass, because I'm by, Will said with a scoff at this. Kyoka said as she nodded in understanding. Oh, and yes, I do find you cute, Will said with a mischievous grin. Kyoka stopped at this, as she blushed slightly, as she was definitely not used to hearing that, let alone from another girl. Later in class, everyone was sitting in class with all might, except for Izuku, who was still in the nurse's office with Recovery Girl. I must say, you all did exceptionally well for the first day of Hero class. Now, would any of you like to guess which team did the best? All Might said with a grin at the class. Several students instantly put their hands up at this. Kirishima, All Might said, as he pointed at the spiky redhead. I think Midoriya's team did the best. His punch was crazy strong and manly, Kirishima said with a grin, as he pumped his fist. Oh, please. While strong, that idiot pretty much destroyed his arm after one attack. What kind of hero can only attack once? Kurama asked with a scoff. He at least got an attack off, Fluffy, Siro said, as he looked at the animal stud ant with a grin. Do you want some of this, tape boy? Kurama yelled, as he stood up on his desk in a rage. Now, young Kurama. I'm sure you will have other chances to prove yourself. Now, does anyone else have a guess? All Might said to Kurama, before he looked at the class. Several students raised their hands again at this. Young Azuri, All Might said, as he pointed at the frog girl. Uzumaki. He lured Todoroki into a trap and was able to subdue him, instead of fighting him head-on, Karotsuyu said, as she lowered her hand. Some of the other students nodded at this, as they couldn't fault this observation. Will smiled hearing this, as she gave Tsuyu a thumbs up, making Tsuyu smile a little. Well said, young Azuri. Observing your opponent and coming up with a plan to quickly subdue them is a skill any hero should strive to develop, All Might said, as he nodded at this. Bakugo scowled upon hearing this, as he looked at Naruto, while Shoto also looked at Naruto with an emotionless look, as if trying to figure him out. Okay, class is dismissed. You can all leave now or stay and chat a bit if you want, All Might said, as he quickly made his way out the door. Who put a bug up his ass? Kurama asked, wondering why the hero was in such a hurry to leave. He's the #1 hero. He probably wants to go do some patrolling, Naruto said with a shrug at this as Bakugo and Shota left class. Bah, whatever. Let's go home, I'm starving, Kurama said, as he jumped down off his desk and stretched his legs a bit. You can wait a while to eat yourself, stupid Fluffy. I'm making friends here, Will yelled, as she looked away from the other girls, who she was talking to. I think you mean seeing who has potential to be part of MPPPH, Kurama was saying, before Naruto grabbed his snout, silencing him. Zip it and I'll buy you a meat lover's pizza, Naruto said. Kurama froze at this, before his tail wagged at this, showing his agreement to this proposal, which caused Naruto to let him go. I'm still hungry, he grumbled, as he went back to his desk. As he said this, a teen boy with his head shaped like a rock approached Kurama's desk and placed what looked like a pork bun on the table. Eh? Kurama asked, as he looked at the student. I think he's trying to be friendly, Tokoemi said, as he looked at Kurama. Ah, thanks. Koda, right? Kurama asked, as he took the offered pork bun. Kota nodded at this, as he lightly smiled at Kurama. Your quirk involves animals, right? Naruto asked, as he looked at the teen and had watched his match during training. Yes. It's called Onivoice, Kota said before he rubbed the back of his head nervously. You can talk to animals, eh? Not a bad power, if you can get creative, Kurama said, as he finished his pork bun. How so? Kota asked curiously. Animals can get where you can't and not be noticed. And if you can talk to bugs, birds, and other small animals, then you can use them to scout ahead for other heroes or use them to find people during a rescue operation, Izuku said, as he entered the classroom. Exactly, Naruto said with a nod of agreement at this. Kota froze at this and started to sweat nervously. What, don't you like bugs? Kurama asked, raising an eyebrow at this. Kota shook his head rapidly at this, showing that was indeed the case. Yeah, well, I'm gonna help you get over it. Consider it thanks for the food, Kurama said with a grin at Kota. Be afraid. Will yelled upon hearing this. Bite me, pervert! Kurama yelled back to her. I'm allergic to shrimp! Will yelled, getting groans and laughs from some of the other students. Such vulgarness is unbecoming of future heroes, Ida said, as he adjusted his glasses. Nark, Kurama said with a scoff at this, getting more laughs from some of the students, while Ida sputtered in surprise. How's the arm? Naruto asked Izuku, as he ignored Kurama. Not too bad, though recovery girl got pretty mad at me, Izuku said with a nervous chuckle. Well, yeah? It's only the first week and you had to see her for a major injury, Naruto said, as he looked at Izuku's arm, which was in a cast. You were pretty cool though, with how you got one over on Splosion Boy, Will said with a friendly smile. Splosion Boy? Gahahahaha. Oh, that's the best! Kurama yelled, as he cackled madly at this, which caused him to fall onto the floor, where he rolled around in laughter. So how exactly does your quirk work? Naruto asked Izuku curiously, as they all started to leave class. Oh, well, I build up stocked up energy and release it when I attack. I am a late bloomer, so I don't know everything about it yet, Izuku said, deciding to be a little vague, while giving a little information. So you don't know how to not go all out yet? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow at this. No, but I'm hoping to figure it out, Izuku said, as he looked at his damaged arm, knowing he needed to figure this out right away. Hey, if you want, I can give you some advice. Our quirks are kinda similar, so it might help you, Naruto said, figuring it couldn't hurt to help Izuku. Izuku looked at Naruto in surprise at this, before he wiped his eyes a bit and nodded at him with a smile. Naruto smiled and nodded back at Izuku. Hey, have you seen Kat-chan? I didn't see him in class, Izuku said, as they walked down the hall. You mean Bakugo? He left class as soon as he could. I think you can catch him before he leaves school, Naruto said, as he pointed out the door. Izuku quickly ran after Bakugo, leaving Naruto alone. Hey, Uzumaki! Let's go get something to eat. I want to go over some ideas to get stronger with you. Kirishima yelled as he, Siro, Sato, Yuga, and Shoji approached him. Yeah. Van said you helped her train before school. Do you think you can give us tips? Siro asked with a grin. Yeah, sure, let's go, Naruto said as he nodded at his fellow teens, who followed him out of the school. If you're getting food, then you better take me and my boys with you, damn it! Kurama yelled as he, Tokoemi, and Kota followed. Oh? Starting a gang, are we? Naruto asked with a snicker. I can have friends besides you and the battle axe, Kurama said with a shrug at this. I heard that, you maniac. Don't make me plant my size 12s up your ass. Will yelled, as she and the girls made their way towards the school exit. Are Americans always so vulgar? Ida asked curiously. Would you believe she was shy when we first met? Naruto asked with a chuckle at this, as they all left, while Will and Kurama continued to trade insults. A few days later, Naruto, Will and Kurama were on their way to school. But as they approached the gates, they saw that the front gates of the school were surrounded by people, who had cameras and microphones. Great, just what we need, Kurama said with a scoff at this, as they approached. What's got them excited? Will asked curiously, as she raised an eyebrow. Well, the number one hero is a teacher here now. They probably want to get information on how he's doing as a teacher, Naruto said as he shrugged. Excuse me? Can you tell me what it's like to have All Might as a teacher? One of the reporters asked, as Naruto's group approached. Sorry, I don't speak Japanese, Will said in English, as she walked past the reporter and entered through the gates. Not happening. Now get that funkin' camera out of my face! Kurama yelled, as he used his tail to smack the camera of a reporter, sending it flying into a tree nearby, breaking it. Sorry about them, they are quirky, Naruto said with a sheepish chuckle, as he ran after them past the main gates, which quickly closed behind him. Moments later, everyone was in their homeroom and Aizawa was in front of the class, as it started. I have your results from All Might from his hero class the other day. Midoriya, you had to break yourself to win again, he said, as he looked at Izuku with a cold look. Sorry, sir, I'm working on it, Izuku said with a sheepish look, as he rubbed the back of his head. It's true. I have been giving him some tips, seeing as our quirks are a little similar in some ways, Naruto said. Good idea. I noticed that too, also good job on your match. Being able to think up a plan on the fly will save yours and others' lives, so keep it up, Aizawa said with a nod, referring to Naruto and Toru's match against Shoto and Shoji. Naruto nodded at this, while the rest of the class also nodded, knowing this was a lesson they should also learn. Bakugo, you need to get over whatever your problem is with Midoriya, otherwise we're gonna have a problem, Aizawa said with a firm tone, as he turned his gaze to Bakugo. Bakugo said nothing to this, but he nodded at this, while he clenched his fists in frustration. Okay, let's get to business today. We're going to choose a class representative, Aizawa said, pausing for a moment to build up suspense, before continuing. This caused some of the class to face plant into their desks in surprise, that it was something so mundane. You suck, Caterpillar Man! Kurama yelled, clearly annoyed at this. You need to pick one before the day ends. I don't care how, Aizawa said, as he went back to his sleeping bag, while ignoring Kurama. So how should we pick? Sero asked curiously. We could draw straws and the shortest one is the class representative, Kirishima said, as he crossed his arms. That's ridiculous. It should be someone who is most qualified, not random chance. We should put it to a vote, Ida said, as he waved his arms. I humbly accept, Yuga said with a smile, as he tossed his hair back. Sit down, you idiot, Kurama said with a scoff at this, as he scratched his ear. Ida is right, we should vote. The ones who get the most votes will most likely be the ones the most people trust to do the job, Naruto said, as he nodded at Lita. Makes sense to me, Momo said as she also nodded at this, as everyone took out pieces of paper and pencils. Moments later, Naruto and Momo were standing in front of the class, as they had gotten the most votes, with Naruto getting the most and Momo second place. I demand a recount, Bakugo yelled out, as he slammed his fists on his desk. Dude, you only got one vote, Kirishima said, as he held up said vote. Yeah. Midoriya got more votes than you, Sero said with a chuckle, as they looked at the results. Hey, who voted for Deku? Bakugo yelled in a rage at this. Achiko whistled innocently at this, while playing with her thumbs. It's a secret poll, Splosion Boy Will said with a scoff at this. The hell you call me? Bakugo yelled, as he turned to look at Will, an aura of anger around him. Okay everyone, calm down. While I'm honored that you all voted for me, I don't think I'm actually qualified for this. So I'm gonna pass this job to Momo, seeing as she got the second highest number of votes, and she can pick her vice president, Naruto said to the class, before he looked at Momo with a smile. Momo blinked in surprise at this, before she smiled back. I happily accept, and as for vice president, I choose Ida. You seem to be good at helping lead people, so if you want the job, Momo was saying, before she was cut off. I accept, Ida said, as he stood up and approached the front of the class, while Naruto sat back down at his desk. You just passed the buck because you hate paperwork, Will whispered to Naruto, as she smiled knowingly at him. Hush you, Naruto whispered at this. This was overheard by Kyoka, thanks to her earphone jacks, who sputtered in laughter at this. Eh? You actually picked out a class representative before lunch, Aizawa said, as he woke up and looked at the class. Yup, and before you turned into a butterfly, Kurama said with a smirk, while some of the class laughed at this. Before Aizawa could respond to this, the bell went off, signaling the end of class. Lunch! Kurama yelled, as he jumped off his desk and ran out the door. Oh geez. We better get him, before he makes a spectacle of himself in the cafeteria again, Naruto said with a groan, as he stood up from his desk. Yeah, if anyone gets in between him and food, it's gonna end up on the news, Will said with a grin, as everyone got up to head to lunch. Later at lunch, everyone in Class 1A walked into the cafeteria, which was full of students and what looked like a crowd forming at the line to get food. I wonder what's going on, Mina said, as they all tried to approach and get a look at what was happening. You cut in front of me, Blondie! Kurama was heard yelling. It's not my fault I didn't see you, since you're the size of a chihuahua, another voice said mockingly. A chihuahua? You're comparing me to a dog? Kurama was heard yelling, before he grew to the size of a large lion, towering over the students, making them back up and revealing that Kurama was yelling at a teen boy, who had slicked back blonde hair and a creepy smile on his face. Well, he had a smile on his face, before Kurama was now at his eye level, his tails going nuts behind him, as he growled. Kurama, what the hell are you doing? Naruto asked, as he approached the animal hero in training. I was in line for my lunch, when this pissant cut in front of me, Kurama yelled, as smoke came out of his mouth. You're from Class 1A? Surprising that such a monster is on the hero course, the blonde teen said. I'll show you a monster, you mother, Kurama was saying angrily, before Naruto flicked him on the head, making him shrink down to his normal form. Gah! Punk ass with his cheap shots! Kurama yelled, annoyed at Naruto for cutting him off from his power, seeing as he technically still could power his quirk with his chakra. Gahahaha. I can't believe that such a mouthy little fuzzball can be beaten so easily, the teen was saying, before he was cut off, as a red-haired teen girl walked over and grew one of her hands to giant size and used it to slap the blonde teen, sending him to the other side of the cafeteria. Nice distance, Naruto said to the teen girl. Sorry about Monoma. He thinks of Class 1A as rivals to our class. I'm Atsuka Kendo of Class 1B, the teen said, as she introduced herself, holding out her hand to Naruto, after she'd shrunk it back down to normal, which Naruto shook. Ah, you're the class representative of Class 1B, Momo said, as she had read the paperwork on the other class representatives that Aizawa had given her. Yeah, that's me. I hope our classes can get along, seeing as we all want to be great heroes, Atsuka said with a nod. Works for me. You carry yourself like a warrior, more than the blonde punk ass, Kurama said, as he shook himself after recovering from Naruto taking his energy. Oh, eat your food, Will said, as she handed him a tray of food. Finally! I was wasting away, Kurama said, as he took the tray with his tail and ran off to a table, where Tokoyami and Koda were sitting. As this was happening, another student with Atsuka approached and watched this happen. It was another teen girl, who had blonde hair and long horns growing out of her head. Fox's odd, yes? The teen girl asked Itsuka in broken Japanese. Are you American? I thought I was alone, Will said in English with a smile at the girl. Oh. I didn't know another student from the States was here. I'm Pony Tsunatori. Are you an exchange student too? Pony asked Will in English. Before Will could answer, suddenly an alarm went off and the students started to panic and started to try and leave in a wave of chaos. As this was happening, Izuku looked outside and saw that some of the teachers were talking to some people from the press. It looks like they somehow got in and set off the alarm, Ochako said, as she frowned. What do you suppose they want? Izuku asked curiously. Those morons probably want to interview All Might, Kurama said with a scoff. That or complain about you breaking their camera, Will said with a snicker at what Kurama had pulled earlier. Come on, we need to figure out a way to calm everyone down, Naruto said, as the other students were all trying to rush out of the school, thinking there was an attack going on. I have an idea. Lita, grab Ochiko's hand, Izuku said to his classmate. Lita nodded at this after thinking about it, as he understood what Izuku's idea was, and after he did so, he floated into the air above everyone. Everyone, calm down! The alarm went off because the press got in. The teachers are handling it, so everyone try to calm down and better represent this school, Ida yelled out. All of the students soon calmed down and after looking out the window, went back to the cafeteria and back to their food. Nice thinking, Midoriya. Are you always smart in a pinch? Will asked with a grin at Izuku, who smiled sheepishly at this. Okay. Let's get back to our lunch before Kurama eats it all, Naruto said, as he helped Ida back to the ground. Too late! Kurama yelled from the cafeteria, before he started to cackle madly. I'm gonna shave him and then tie his tail into a knot, Will growled in annoyance, as she quickly ran into the cafeteria. Naruto and Izuku's sweat dropped at this, as they all went back into the cafeteria. The next day. It was the next day and currently, everyone in Class 1A was on the bus that was taking them to a special place, which would help with today's field exercise. As they got out of the bus, they all saw what looked like a giant domed stadium, and standing in front of it was what looked like a person in a spacesuit. This was the space hero known as 13. Welcome to the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, or the USJ-13 said, as she greeted the class. Oh, I have heard of this. You created this place to simulate all kinds of rescue situations, so you can train heroes for all kinds of rescue scenarios, Ochako said with an excited smile. Exactly. Here you will learn to use your quirk to rescue people. Most of you have quirks that could be dangerous, if not used properly. So here it's my job to teach you, 13 said. You would know, as your quirk allows you to suck up anything into your fingers and turn it to dust, Izuku said, as he nodded in agreement. Huh, so looks don't mean shit, Kurama said, as he had to admit that quirk sounded powerful. Okay everyone, follow me, 13 said, as she led the way into the USJ. As they entered, everyone looked inside and saw that it was indeed filled with different areas that were based on different natural disasters, from floods and fires, to earthquakes and mudslides. Wow, UA goes all out, Will said as she whistled, impressed with how big the USJ was. Before anyone could respond to this, what looked like a black portal appeared down in the middle of the USJ, with a large creature walking through it. It was dark purple, with razor-sharp teeth, big muscles, and they could see its brain. And next to it was a male, who had a large number of hands wrapped around their body, including one on their face, as various other people came through the portal. Aizawa and 13 instantly stood at alert seeing this. Stay alert, all of you. Those are real villains, Aizawa said, as he put on his goggles. Most of the students frowned at this, as they hadn't expected this to happen. Great, just what we need, Naruto said with a scowl, as he activated his chakra cloak. I know. This is gonna be fun, Kurama said with a mad grin, as he grew to the size of a lion and his tail split into 9. So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comment section how was the story. And also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.